Alright, what about you, Steve? What the hell is that? Oh, well...
Hi, I'm Tyler Fultz. I'm a nuclear engineer with a little over 10 years of experience in the commercial nuclear power industry, from engineering to operations to emergency response. I don't claim to know everything there is nuclear, but I can certainly share some knowledge. Today we're going to be looking at another one of the hilarious Sam Ognilla Academy's videos on where religious symbols come from. Let's check it out.
Hey kids, it's That Happened Thursday. So today, I'll discuss where different religious symbols come from.
Probably earned myself a place in every version of how these drawings are. Oh, that's good.
First up is Christianity. As most of you know, Jesus of Nazareth was crucified despite being supposedly sinless, so the cross is representative of his martyrdom. Personally, I always thought choosing the cross of all things to signify the whole religion was at least a little silly. Right, my prophet, he was a great dude, spread peace and love all along the land, performed many bountiful miracles, and then right at the end, he fell face first into a fucking bear trap and died. So that's our symbol, whole religion bear trap. Peace.
That's fascinating. I always wondered that. Why focus on the way he died and not what he lived and what he taught? It also makes you wonder if this was a different time period and he was killed via the electric chair or a lethal injection, if the symbol would be a chair or a syringe.
Love, compassion, and bear trap.
So let's talk about the classic symbol for the atom. Circle in the middle with a bunch of little things orbiting it. That's roughly based off of the John Dalton model of the atom that is pretty old. Atoms don't actually look like this. Of course, the arrangement of the electrons doesn't follow a stable orbital pattern such as the solar system, but hey, it's a really cool looking logo, and we still use it to this day. You see it on like the Nuclear Energy Institute, the International Atomic Energy Association, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. A lot of people still love this symbol, and I have to say it is still a really cool symbol, but just don't take it too literally as to what it actually means.
Next up is the Jewish Star of David. It's been used now and then since the 11th century, but it only really got popular around the 1800s. There's no real special meaning behind it.
I like how I think he kind of drew him a bit off on purpose like that, and I think it's awesome. It just adds to the charm.
They just took a random symbol that was kind of around called the hexagram and made it their own. Bro, check out my new religious symbol. I'm pretty sure you didn't come up with that. Pretty sure that's a thing elementary schoolers do in their notebook when they're bored. Nah, man, not once it gets popular. Then everybody will think of my...
Has anyone not seen that symbol before? I have no idea where it comes from, and yet it seems like everyone just draws this symbol in a notebook. It's almost as if everyone kind of comes up with it on their own, or they hear it from a friend or something like that. I guess it's an old pen and paper meme from back before we really called stuff like that memes. I wonder if kids today still use this. I'm not actually sure.
When they see it, whatever floats your boat. Jimmy, what is this in your notebook? Oh, it's just a little doodle. Jimmy, listen to me. We are Catholics. Now get over here and erase this blasphemy. But Mom, now!
Here's another version of the atom that I often see. Technically slightly more accurate since it doesn't show the electrons on the orbital path, but it still shows them as lines. I think this one's a little bit more streamlined, so I guess it just kind of depends what you're going for when you make your little cool atomic-looking letterhead. On that note, do you guys prefer atomic or nuclear? Atomic, to me, I just think of old school 1950s World of Tomorrow, Atomic Man and his rocket ship going to the moon and to Mars and stuff like that. Whereas nuclear, I think of it as a bit more modern and less fictitious, but people still use the term atomic from time to time, but I've never heard anyone within my industry say, hey, let's go ahead and work on some good atomic energy. But if people don't like the term nuclear, maybe we should go back to atomic. What do you think?
So, the star and crescent actually used to represent the Ottoman Empire, which ruled over most of the Islamic world during the 1800s. However, the empire dissolved after World War I, and its symbol was later adopted to represent Islam as a whole around the 1970s. Hey Rob, guess what? I'm starting a new baseball team. Isn't that the Chicago Cubs logo? Oh please, they're barely even a team. When's the last time they did anything? Nobody's using this symbol because nobody wants to buy their merchandise. Perfectly good logo. I'm taking it for my team. Couldn't that lead to a bit of confusion?
For those of you who are not into American baseball, the Cubs famous for not being very good despite being a very old baseball team, well over 100 years old.
Only because they'll see a guy in a Cubs jersey who can actually catch a pop fly.
Now we have the old radioactive material propeller. Don't actually think that's what it's called. I don't actually think it has an official name, but this is the version that I'm used to seeing in the nuclear plant, the one that is magenta. Magenta is a color, you'd see it used on this symbol, and you also see it mark like boundaries of contaminated areas, various signage in a radiological control area. It gets your attention, and the problem if we stuck with yellow is just a generic caution, like it could be guys working in a ladder overhead. Red is to do with fire protection. So magenta it's one of those, I'm going to get your attention colors, and everyone, at least within the industry, thinks it means radioactive material. Am I in the right area? Did I have my proper briefing with the radiation protection personnel before going in? I think it's a pretty easy to use symbol and very easy to recognize. I still like calling it the propeller, even though that's not what it's called.
Next up is Taoism. Alright, so the Yin Yang, or as they call it, the Taijitu, actually applies to a lot of Asian religions. Just the Taoists use it as their primary symbol today. It originated in China, dating back to the 11th century AD. Although it's had a lot of different looks over the years, it's always represented the same idea of balance between contrasting forces in the world. Okay, Carl, balance of good and evil.
I had no idea of the differing looks over the centuries. That's cool. I'm sure it's changed even more. Those were just 3 examples he showed.
Let's see your design. Not bad, not bad. Alright, what about you, Steve? What the hell is that? Oh, well, you said balance between good and bad in the world, so I drew a grilled cheese sandwich shaking hands with a razor blade covered dildo. What? Okay.
Are those mortal enemies or something, or is he just taking the piss? I'm not sure.
All other questions aside, why is a grilled cheese the best thing you could think of? Have you ever had a grilled cheese? Like a real one with butter just smeared all over it, crust nice and crispy.
The best grilled cheese that I've always liked are the ones on hamburger buns. They just have that good melty goodness and a nice crisp bun to it. I think I've always preferred my grilled cheeses that way, but hey, feel free to disagree with me.
Some onions in there, get out. Okay.
And here's one that hasn't really come up that much within my career. Fallout shelters, but it kind of makes sense. Upside down radioactive material symbol, arrows pointing down towards, because they're always going to be underground in a basement or possibly a bunker if you have a fancy enough fallout shelter. By the way, if you like this combination of symbols and salmonella, please check out my video I did reacting to his video on fire diamonds. I'll pin a comment with a link to it down below. But fire diamonds are quite commonly used within the nuclear industry. So if you like this video, I know you're going to love that one.
So you know how when people are meditating in movies, they do that obnoxious Om thing? Well, apparently Om is actually the name of the popular Hindu symbol. And repeating its name aloud is said to be a sacred incantation,
I can make that noise.
Which is why it's said during things like rituals or yoga. The actual meaning behind the symbol is
soul, universal truth, soul, life, energy. The McRib is back. Yes. Cosmic infinity knowledge. Wipe with your left hand so you keep with your right. Insert prayer here. Yes. Shorthand versions of things are used a lot within nuclear power. We haven't used Ohm. Ohm doesn't mean emergency shutdown or anything like that. But to give you an example of a radio communication, we don't say hydrogen and nitrogen over the radio because they sound very similar when your transmission's a little gargled, and you do not want to mix those up over the radio. So hydrogen, we say Hotel 2, the phonetic alphabet, and nitrogen, we say November 2. Those two sound very different as to make sure you're using the right gas where you need it.
To represent a load of different things depending on who you ask or when. Basically, whatever your purpose is, it's a one-size-fits-all prayer. Bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty. This is taking forever. No, you know what? I'm gonna make my own religion, yeah. And our prayers, one syllable long. We're just gonna go ood whenever we feel like praying. That's it. Dinner table, ood. But how will you get any meaning out of that? It's my own word. I can give it whatever meaning I want. So I'll just give it all the meanings. It'll mean the soul. It'll mean the universe.
Well said.
It'll mean I don't have to recite any more long-winded bullshit. Anyway, pass the corn.
And here's one that's not a radiation symbol, but a lot of people seem to think it is for some reason, though I've noticed less so ever since COVID. But the Biohazard, nothing to do with radioactivity. I don't know what the source of it is. Maybe that Chernobyl film, HBO series brought out some of it. They seem to think that radiation spreaded like a virus, so they might have combined the two. I guess it is possible for something to be both radioactive and a biological hazard. I can't think of a substance like that off the top of my head, but if you do, let me know in the comments. But the appropriate hazard you put on there, if you were restricted to just one, the most predominant one. If it's predominantly biological, put this. If it's predominantly radiological, put the other one. On some warning labels, you can go ahead and put both and just ensure all your bases are covered.
So unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. At some point, I'll do a second video covering some of the more obscure religious symbols.
And that's Wheel of Fortune. I don't know. Maybe that's supposed to be the Buddhist wheel. I'm not 100% sure about that. And there you have the Shinto one in the center. And we all know Apple's a religion. This was cool. I'm always good to learn something from the Salmonella Academy. And hopefully I was able to show you a few things regarding nuclear symbols. Please let me know if you have any obscure symbols you can link down in the comments below that you want to show up and maybe explain, or maybe some misconceptions associated with symbols that a lot of people think they are, but maybe they're not. Symbology is its own fascinating study. There's a whole art and science behind that. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.